All right, well, I think we're going to get started. Welcome to all of you joining us for today's webinar, whether you're viewing this live or viewing this later as a recording. We're so happy to have you with us. My name is Naomi Hoffer, and I'm honored to be the program manager for the Sherry Serrato-Brisson Brain Cancer Survivorship Program, whose mission is to support the wellness and quality of life of persons living with brain cancer through a number of programs and services focusing on emotional, physical, and cognitive health. With me today, also here in the Zoom background, are other very important members of our team: Alexa Greenstein, our survivorship nurse practitioner, and Mary Destree, our supportive care community expansion coordinator. You might be seeing posts from both Alexa and Mary in the chat box during our presentation today. So today, I'm really looking forward to our discussion and practice of mindfulness. We're going to be learning about the definition of mindfulness, as well as its origins and applications. We're going to hear about the cognitive, emotional, and physical benefits that are experienced with regular practice, as well as how we can use it to cope with all the changes experienced in life, and especially with brain cancer. We'll also hear how it can be used to connect with joy and beauty in life. Then I feel so fortunate that we're going to have two wonderful people here today to discuss their personal experiences with mindfulness and how it supported them and continues to support them through brain cancer. Then you'll get a few resources to help you get started with the mindfulness practice, and we'll hopefully have time for your questions. And I'm really looking forward to the experiential component in our After the Show unrecorded segment for those of you who wish to stay on and join us in the room, so to speak. So it is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our featured expert speaker for today. Nichole Proffitt is a certified mindfulness teacher professional who has been practicing and studying mindfulness and meditation since 2000 and has been teaching mindfulness since 2006. Nichole's focus is on the cultivation of self-awareness and wisdom, stress and pain management, and loving kindness and compassion. At the foundation of her meditation practice and her teaching is the belief that mindfulness helps us grow a more skillful relationship to the present moment, thereby allowing us to show up more fully and equally for the joys and sorrows of our lives. In addition to teaching mindfulness and mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, throughout UCSF, Nichole works in private practice, offering trauma-informed and mindfulness-based interventions to clients addressing a range of wellness issues, including acute anxiety and stress, addiction recovery, healing from trauma, chronic illness, and grief and loss. She teaches workshops and retreats and offers mindfulness-based programs at various institutions and organizations throughout the Bay Area. She is also a trained somatic experiencing and trauma therapy practitioner. So it's my absolute honor now to bring on Nichole to help us learn more about this through her presentation. Thank you so much, Nichole, for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naomi. It's really a pleasure to be here. And as you know, this is a subject that's really dear to my heart, as I've had the pleasure of supporting a few clients who've lived with brain cancer. And so this is really special to me, and that I've had the pleasure of working at UCSF for these last several years. It just feels like such an honor to be able to support more of the programs and more of the communities at UCSF. So yeah, welcome everybody. It's really a pleasure to see you all and to have you here with us. I'm really in love with mindfulness, and in particular, I'm really in love with how it supports people in living a richer, fuller, and more easeful life. And I'm going to talk today a little bit about how you can use mindfulness to support you in your own experience of just being a human in the world, or a human who's also living with a condition such as brain cancer, and how to utilize these practices to support your general experiences of ease and wellness. And as I like to say, the ability to live life on life's terms. So I'm going to talk a little bit, just begin by welcoming you all in and starting with a little bit of opening mindfulness practice. So let me actually just share my screen really quickly so I can pull up some slides, which might make it easier for you to follow along. So just give me just one moment. Okay, so we're going to begin with some opening practice, just to welcome you all to our time together and to give you a little bit of an experiential taste of what this mindfulness stuff is all about. So what I'd like to welcome you all to do is to begin by just finding yourself sitting wherever you are. And if you're in a seat that feels comfortable, just allowing your body to ease and settle into that. And if you need to make a few adjustments to get a little bit more comfortable in your seat, please do. I welcome you to do whatever you need to just settle in. And I like to begin, especially for those who who don't have any experience or have never done any mindfulness practice before. I like to keep it really simple when we begin together. And for those who have some experience, this will all be very familiar, and all of you are welcome just as you are. So I like to begin by just noticing your body sitting. So here you are in a seat or on a bed, maybe on a couch. I'm guessing you're on some sort of structure that's holding and supporting your body. And so maybe just taking a moment to cognitively notice, oh, here I am. Here I am in this present moment. Here I am on this seat. And then maybe beginning to feel your body making contact with that seat or with that structure. And you might notice the sensation of your body making contact. You might notice sensations like softness if you're touching a blanket or a cushion. Or you might notice other sensations internally in your body where it's making contact with the seat or the structure. And maybe now bringing some attention to your feet. However your feet might be positioned, they might be anchoring into the floor. They might be extended out in front of you. But just however your feet are positioned, seeing if you can notice any feeling or any sensation in your feet. You might noticing what's happening in your toes or in your heels. And when I invite you to notice what you're feeling, what I mean by that is to feel the feeling of the sensations. So whatever those might be in your body, unique to your body, could you practice feeling them? Just as a way of bringing you a bit more into the present moment. And maybe in your body, feeling sensations isn't as easy. Many bodies feel different things, or many bodies notice different things. So there's no right or wrong way. Maybe what you notice more of is the sensation of your breath. So some people find that a little easier to bring the attention into. So if you'd like to keep feeling the sensations in your body, please do. And if it feels right to begin to bring some attention into the sensations of your in-breath and your out-breath, I welcome and invite you to do so. And so very similarly, we're practicing just feeling the feeling of that. Whatever that sensation is that you notice when you breathe in with awareness, and similarly feeling whatever sensation it is you notice when you breathe out with awareness. Maybe noticing your body relaxes a little. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Some bodies relax, some don't. But we just get to practice paying attention and feeling whatever that sensation is. And if it feels right, again, you can continue to still notice and feel those sensations of your body sitting or lying or resting. Or perhaps you're someone who actually notices sounds more than sensations. So if you feel so called to keep feeling the sensation of the breath or the sensations of your body, please do. But I also invite those who are interested to maybe turn your attention toward a sound. And what the sound is not as important as can we practice just hearing the sound of it. So it might be our intellectual minds might know it's a car driving by, but what if you allow your mind to just simply hear the sound passing by you, getting quieter in the distance? So here are some very simple ways we can practice being mindful in the present moment. Noticing that thoughts might arise and attempt to distract you, which is very normal. But just gently returning the attention back to that sensation in the body that caught your attention, or back to that rhythm of the in-breath and the out-breath. or back to that sound or that series of sounds you might be hearing in the background, and paying attention to these with awareness that they are happening. And we'll stay here for just another moment, just another moment. And so when you're ready, beginning to bring your attention back to the room around you. If you've closed your eyes, now might be a fine time to open them and reorient back to the space that you're in, back to the screen. If your eyes were already open, which is also a fine way to practice meditation, just reorienting your attention back to the sound of my voice, back to the words that you see on the screen. So welcome back, everybody. And we'll get some chances later on to check in about what you noticed, what you felt, what you heard. But I want to talk a little bit about what mindfulness is. There may be some of you here who are encountering this for the first time. And if you are, I want to say welcome. It's really a pleasure to have you. This practice of mindfulness has been profound in my own life and profound in the lives of many of the people that I've worked with. And it has the potential to really support your experience of living with brain cancer, as well as the healing process that many of you are going through. So I just really want to welcome all of you here. So my first question is just, what is mindfulness? And so it's so much and it's so simple all at the same time. So very simply put, mindfulness it's this practice of paying attention to your direct experience in the present moment. And what I mean by that is noticing, oh, what is happening right now? So right now I notice my hand is resting on my knee. And so I might feel that sensation of my hand resting on my knee. And the intention is to notice what's happening in our direct experience in the present moment with a sense of openness, with a sense of curiosity, and a willingness to be with the experience just as it is. And this is particularly helpful when we're dealing with challenging things, because as you know, at times it can be very, very challenging to be present with challenging things. By definition, challenging is challenging. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how it will support us, but the essence of the practice is just simply that it's about practicing paying attention to what's happening in the present moment, just as it is, with a willingness to get to know it just as it is. So secular mindfulness, as we teach here at UCSF, or as I teach, it is influenced by ancient Eastern wisdom traditions, or originating in the original Buddhist teachings. That said, we're not teaching Buddhism here, and I'm not teaching Buddhism when I'm working at UCSF. What we've done is we've borrowed from these traditions the practices and teachings and techniques that are very useful and helpful for the contemporary mind. And so these practices, historically and contemporarily, are very useful in cultivating self-awareness, spiritual development. It's helpful in relieving stress and developing concentration and focus. And it can help us connect more deeply with what's going on in our lives. Again, so connecting with our lives just as it is. So let me move along. So I think of meditation or mindfulness in three ways. I think of it as a practice, a state, and a trait. So first of all, we practice mindfulness. So I just walked you through a very, very brief practice. So it's this practice of returning your attention to some element of your experience, direct experience in the present moment, such as your breath, a physical sensation, a feeling, a thought, an emotion, or an external object such as a sound. And the purpose of this is for cultivating concentration and to more deeply explore how you're relating to your experience. For example, you might notice a sound and it might annoy you. So we might get to practice noticing, oh, my mind is relating to that by being annoyed. So this is a practice. We're practicing paying attention. We're practicing cultivating awareness. As we practice more, we will experience states of mindfulness. So a sense of knowing, a sense of attentiveness or direct focus. We will experience more states of feeling present and aware. And this grows through ongoing intentional practice of mindfulness. As we experience more states of mindfulness, we will, over time, cultivate a greater trait. And you've probably all have that one person in your life that they're just so patient. They're so present. They're so there. You really feel them, like they're really listening, or you really know that they're there with you. We all have that one person in our life, or maybe we've met that person briefly, but you know what I mean. So I think of those people as having a very deeply cultivated trait of mindfulness. So it's this general orientation toward present attention, or it's a natural disposition and awareness, which often grows out of cultivating frequent states of mindfulness. So again, there's this practice, which we cultivate. There's states of mindfulness, which we experience through ongoing cultivation and practice. And then there's this trait that grows out of experiencing repeated states of mindfulness and awareness. So let's just pause for a moment and maybe just taking a breath or feeling your feet, feeling the sensations in your breath or your feet. And just noticing, now that you've heard a little bit more about what this is, seeing if you can bring in that awareness, that state of awareness of feeling what you're feeling in this present moment. So this is the practice of noticing your direct experience. All right, I'm gonna move along. So I did the best I could to get this all on one page. So you may have to slowly read it. It's a little condensed. But what we have here is, so here's just a brief synopsis of some of the ways that how mindfulness helps us. So from quieting the mind to opening the heart, mindfulness really is a very complete and thorough practice that supports wellness, awareness, and so much more. And here's some of the ways that it can help us cognitively, socially, emotionally. That can help us cultivate kindness, connection. It can help us cultivate a sense of greater self-acceptance the more and more we begin to get to know our experience just as it is. It can help us develop more concentration through concentrating and focusing the mind. Many people report that it helps cultivate a greater sense of inner calm. I have experienced very directly, and as have many people, a greater sense of presence, like, oh, I'm really here. I'm able to be with this, even if it's challenging, even if it's a difficult experience, but to be able to be present and to be attentive to our experience. That there's that ongoing growth of self-awareness. And as self-awareness grows, many people report, including myself, that it also grows more insight. Like as I gain more awareness of my experience, of my thoughts, of my emotions, of my body sensations, it can yield more insight and understanding of, oh, I see, this is what's happening. This is how I'm relating to it, thus yielding discernment and intuitive understanding. It can also support us in growing more emotional resilience, like adaptability, flexibility, and strength. One of the things that I found really meaningful in the growth of my own mindfulness practice is how it's really grown a deeper sense of compassion for others, but really more compassion for myself. And I know that it can be very hard when living with uncertainty or chronic illness. I work with a lot of clients who live with chronic illness, and I myself am a chronic illness survivor. And so to be able to have compassion, to deeply care for my experience, to deeply care for the suffering of myself and others is, I think, one of the greatest outgrowths of mindfulness for many people. And notably, nervous system regulation. Mindfulness can be very supportive in helping, again, create more calm and resilience in the nervous system. And through the breathing practices that you've gotten a taste of, it really helps trigger the relaxation responses. And what we find is that a flexible nervous system that can handle activation and return to a calm state is going to be very supportive when dealing with a lot of unknowns in life. So maybe take a breath and just take in what you just heard, what you've been following along with on the screen, and see if you notice any of that in your own life. Or maybe you notice, oh, I'd like to cultivate more of that in my own life. So the practice, and we're going to do some more mindfulness practice later on, but so just knowing that here's a practice that can be very supportive of these and many other things, as you'll see moving along. So every now and then I like to just pause, and I'll just throw out a really useful practice. So when you notice yourself getting a little activated, like I notice my heart beating right now, I like to pause and just stop. So there's an acronym, STOP. So S stands for stop. So pause, take a breath. And just feel that long, slow breath move through you. And observe, oh, what am I observing? I'm observing my heart beating. I can feel some sensation in my toes. I can feel some warmth in my face. And then proceed. So now that I've gotten present and grounded, and I'm feeling a little less activated, I'm ready to move forward. So here we are, other ways that mindfulness helps us. And these next 3 slides are going to be more specific and hopefully more specifically helpful to each of you who are here today. So there's some very real cognitive benefits of mindfulness practice. So these 4 that I have here are just 4 of many, but feel like the most important. So it can help us develop concentration and focus in the mind. And so as we talked about, it's about this repetitive returning the attention to an object or your direct experience. And this helps us kind of develop that muscle of concentration and focus in the mind. And this becomes very helpful because, as you know, there's probably moments of overwhelm in your life, whether it's dealing with doctors or other things regarding your condition or just being a human in the world. And so if we have more steadiness and stability in the mind, we can move through these conditions of our lives with a little more ease. Mindfulness can also, as the mind concentrates and focuses, it can grow more self-awareness. Like, wow, I notice I'm getting really sad about this, or I notice I'm reacting to this thing, or I'm reacting to what the doctor said, or I notice I'm shutting down when I feel this particular feeling. So as we grow in our self-awareness and we begin to see, oh yes, this is what's happening for me, it actually allows us to respond to the situation appropriately. So if I notice I'm shutting down in the face of sadness or grief, maybe what I can do then, now that I have that awareness, is say, oh, I need to do some things to care for myself today, so I don't always go into that shutdown. So it can also help us cultivate alertness and present attention. So I hear many people say, in the face of challenge or just when they're bored, they can tend to get tired, or the mind will distract in some strange way. And so again, this development of concentration and focus can also help us stay present in the face of the many things that your lives need you to be present for. And then, this calming and centering of the mind, like as you see, like they're all obviously very related, but one can be concentrated but still agitated. And one could have self-awareness but still very anxious. And so as mindfulness grows more of that alertness and present attention, over time, it can also help bring in more calm. Like the more I see these behaviors or these responses for what they are, it can sometimes help decondition that reaction and help us learn to respond rather than react. So helping bring a little bit more calm and a little more centering into the mind. And so maybe you feel some frustration about something, but from that place of calm and centeredness in your mind, that opens up more possibilities then for how to respond to that frustration. So here are just a few of the things. Let's move along. So the emotional benefits of mindfulness practice are many. And again, these are just a few that I think would probably be most supportive for each of you. So one of the things that I know working with people who are living and dealing with chronic illness and recovering from trauma and having worked with clients with different types of brain cancer is that it's so important that we learn how to and have the ability to feel what we're feeling. And it can be so easy to not feel them because oftentimes the feelings can be quite big or quite overwhelming. So the mindfulness can really help us as we come into that present moment more, can help us begin to notice, oh, that's right. That's right. I'm feeling some anxiety. Whew, let me take a breath. And so that leads into the emotion regulation. So let's say you begin to notice like, oh, I'm feeling the anxiety. I'm aware that this is here. I'm aware that I'm feeling fear. Okay, well, maybe I need to take a breath. Maybe I need to pause. Maybe I need to go do something to help regulate our experience of those emotions. So it can also help, well, that was a typo. That was supposed to say help, not help, us navigate conditions like fear, anxiety, depression, or grief. So the regulation of our emotions can lead into helping us know, what do I need right now? Do I need to step out? Do I need to call a support person? Do I need to make sure I'm taking my medication? Do I need to just sit and feel what I'm feeling? So it can really help us learn to really navigate these conditions with real awareness and with real kindness. I think it's also important in how it helps us learn to be present with challenging or particularly unpleasant experiences. And as you know by now, there are many of those on this path. So whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, there's a lot of difficult moments that will arise just by virtue of, again, of being human, but navigating something like brain cancer or any type of cancer, we're going to come into contact with this. So again, learning to cultivate that sense of presence, that ability to be with your experience as it is, pleasant or unpleasant, grows our capacity and helps us then, again, navigate through these experiences and really support ourselves in ways that are going to be nourishing and skillful. There's also this element of managing uncertainty and fear of the unknown. And so as many of us know, it's not a popular opinion, but as we know, there's so much we don't have control over. And that can be very anxiety inducing, even for the best of us. And so how do we then live with things that we just can't control? How do we live with something if we don't know what's going to happen? And I find I've heard so many people say, and myself as well, I've experienced that this ongoing cultivation of the present moment, this growing a new relationship with the present moment, learning how to regulate my emotions and learning how to be with and feel my emotions is so helpful in how we manage uncertainty and the fear of the unknown, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what will happen. We don't know what won't happen. Having that ability to notice, oh, wow, I'm feeling fear right now. And I can't control this, but let me feel the fear. Let me be kind to it. Let me be present with it. Really is such an invaluable support. And all of this, I think, really naturally leads into just, this is how we manage stress. All of this can be very stressful, as I know you all know. And so in being present, in being kind, in being patient, it really can help us navigate, again, how do I deal with my stress in ways that are going to be nourishing and skillful, or potentially exacerbate the stress. So let's just take another breath. Or maybe taking a breath doesn't resonate, but maybe you want to maybe just feel your arm or feel your body sitting, but just as a way, again, to drop into the present moment, to notice what you're experiencing. Maybe even hear a sound for a moment. So next, moving on to the physical benefits of mindfulness practice. So, and again, there are many here as well. So I think one of the most notable benefits of mindfulness practice is in how it can help regulate the nervous system. And I'm not going to go into an extremely in-depth overview of the nervous system and how mindfulness helps, but I'll give you a snippet. In short, what happens is that the deep breathing aspect of mindfulness practice can help trigger the relaxation response in the nervous system. And so many people report that after just a few moments of deep breathing, they notice more calm. They notice a little bit more flexibility in their nervous system, so less of the tension and a little bit more ease. So it can be really helpful in moments when you're feeling anxious or stressed or tense to just pause, do a little bit of breathing or just a little bit of feeling various sensations throughout your body can really help bring us back into a more calm-centered state. One of the things that I see mindfulness practice help with a lot, and I work with a lot of people who are living with extreme chronic pain, and pain may not necessarily go away. But one of the ways that I support people and how I think mindfulness really helps is as we begin to feel more of what we're feeling in our body, or as we begin to learn more about how we're relating emotionally or mentally to difficult or unpleasant things, we can learn to manage pain in more relatable ways. So sometimes people say, it's just so painful, it's so huge, I can't deal with it. And I'll say, hey, how about we just feel what's happening in one area of the pain? And maybe that person will also respond and say, okay, I feel sharpness. Oh, and now I feel a little sensation that's warm. And so what we'll often do is break the pain, this big, big pain, down into these smaller parts. Oh, it's a stinging. And I'll say, well, can you be present with the stinging? And maybe they'll say, yeah, I can. So the idea is that we can break these large, uncomfortable things. If we can begin to tease out the individual sensations, we can begin to be present with them in more bite-sized pieces. And many people find this is very helpful in managing pain, even if the pain doesn't go away, but to not let the pain remain this overwhelming thing. So mindfulness has been very helpful for people with sleep and other disturbances, but particularly sleep, in that it can really help regulate the nervous system and create more ease and relaxation in your body, as well as helping calm the mind. We all know that feeling of those obsessive thoughts that keep us awake at night. So it's very helpful in this regard. It also really helps us get in touch with physical sensations, which can also help us better assess what's our actual state of wellness right now. Sometimes, and I've noticed this in my own life, living with chronic pain, for example, I'll feel pain and my mind wants to blow it up. My mind wants to make it into something much bigger than it really is because I'm just so exhausted dealing with pain. Well, if I bring a little mindful attention, I might see, oh, I'm actually just feeling pain in my shoulder. It's not actually in my whole body. And then by just attending to what's happening in my shoulder, that allows me more time and space and flexibility to really give appropriate attention. So moving along, it can also help reduce inflammation and reduce cortisol levels. And again, I'm not going to do a large overview of how this happens. I'm happy to respond to more questions later and provide some follow-up information for anyone who's interested in this. But you know how I said a moment ago, the deep breathing, it activates the relaxation response. Well, the deep breathing, as it activates the relaxation response, that's what allows toxic levels of cortisol to begin to reduce, thereby allowing some of the inflammation in your system to also alleviate over time. So certain conditions go hand in hand with a lot of inflammation. And there's been some really interesting studies in inflammation-based conditions, how mindfulness practice has really helped reduce cortisol and reduce inflammation. And we can talk more about that later. It's really fascinating. And then overall, it just helps the stress response. So the more calm your nervous system is, the more regulated your nervous system is, the more at ease your system is, the better able your system is going to be able to navigate and manage stress. So why don't we pause for just a moment? And maybe again, if you want to practice just taking a breath, maybe just one slow, steady in-breath and one slow, steady out-breath, maybe slowing down the out-breath just a little bit. And maybe do this another time, one more time. And just notice what happens in your system, by which I mean your body, your mind, your nervous system. Breathing in and breathing out, and just noticing what happens there. So I thought I'd include this slide. I'm not going to read every detail, but you're welcome to take a look at it. So there's a lot of research happening in the medical world around how mindfulness can help us. And I've had the extreme privilege and pleasure of working on a few research studies here at UCSF and at one other institution and how mindfulness helps people. I've worked on a study about diabetes, an HIV study, and then a study with social and emotional capacity. And so there's a lot of really great research happening right now. And what people are finding is that mindfulness is consistently very, very beneficial. And if you'd like more information on studies, I'd be happy to point you in the direction of some great literature. So I'm going to move to the next screen now. So the next, and I think maybe most important, is how does this help us cope with change? So there was always, for each of you, there was a point before the diagnosis and everything that's come after the diagnosis. And then there's that profound transition point in which you are currently grappling with or learning how to manage and navigate, or when you went through that really initial first big process. And then along the way, there's going to be so many other moments of change and transition. And so the first and most basic thing is that it can help us learn to track the changes in your bodies, in your minds, with present attention. So, I'm noticing my breath changes on the in-breath and it changes on the out-breath. So you might think, yeah, like that's so basic, I do that every day, but let's not take for granted the importance of, if my mind has the flexibility to notice that there are changes, could that flexibility and ability to be with change and transition be applied on larger scale to more meaningful and potentially more impactful parts of our experience? So, things change. There are things we don't have control over. So as we can learn again to come back to our experience, direct experience, just as it is. Oh, now it's like this. Oh, but now it's like this. Oh, that changed. And maybe you notice I don't like that change. Oh, but this is how it is. And this is how it is now. But but here it is. And so we might notice, there's some reaction or response to that change, but we just keep bringing our attention back to, what is it like right now? And we might feel feelings, emotions might arise. We might have to go through processes of letting go. But the more we can be present with our experience as it is, the more our capacity grows to navigate change, to navigate transition over time. So it can also help us move through the grief process and other emotions. So largely from this perspective of, again, being able to feel what we're feeling. I'm learning to feel my grief and not run away from it. I'm learning to feel my sadness and to allow it to be there. I'm learning to have compassion for my frustration. And this becomes really important because, as many of you know, these emotions and feelings are just part of the process to be able to be with our humanness without trying to change it, without trying to make it go away, I think is one of the most beautiful gifts that we can give ourselves, even in the face of something like cancer. And especially so because here you are in this very human experience. And so what happens when we begin to bring our present attention in, to allow ourselves to really touch and contact what we're feeling, what we're experiencing? And it can also really help us be present and get to know the new normal that comes with the changes in our capacity and in our body function or our mind function. And this is in one person that I've worked with a very particular type of brain cancer. So much of our work has been around getting to know the new normal. And there have been many new normals, which involves grieving what has changed, grieving what will not be the same anymore, getting to know the new feelings and the new maybe limitations or capacities of the body that come with each stage of change in transition. And so being able to be present with this, to say, oh, this is what's happening. I can be here with this. Or, oh, this is what's happening. This is really challenging, but I'm going to try and get to know this, is so helpful in allowing ourselves to actually live very fully, even as things change, even as things transition. So maybe just reflecting for a moment on the changes you've encountered as you've gone through this, as you've been on this journey. Maybe you have had to adjust to new normals in your own lives. What feelings and emotions have you encountered? What grief and losses have you come up against? And maybe thinking for a moment or imagining for a moment how going forward you might practice being present or just feeling those feelings in a new and different way. I think of it as, not fighting, but allowing. And allowing that there will be new normals that come throughout this process. So this is actually really the most important piece. So in the face of challenge, in the face of difficulty, in the face of things being how you might not want them to be, I really invite the question, what's it like to still connect with joy and beauty, to still connect with what we love? And so mindfulness becomes very important in this. And in one client that I am working with right now who also has a cancer diagnosis, we do a lot of exploration of what else is there. Well, there's cancer and there's pain and there's chemo fog, and she really loves being by the ocean. And so she often says, but I hear the sound of the waves crashing every night. And there's pain and there's chemo fog, but there's also the sunrise over the Atlantic. She's on the East Coast. And so in choosing to be present with what else is there, it can provide this really powerful resource for us when we're also faced with challenging things. And it's really important that we remember, or that I note, that bringing attention to connecting with joy and beauty, it's not about getting caught up in toxic positivity. That is not, I'm not advocating that at all. And I don't want to suggest that, but it's about noticing, oh, yeah, I have this thing going on in my life and it's maybe taking up a lot of space, but there's also this other part of me that still loves to walk under the trees at night and look at the sun coming through the flowers or through the blossoms in the branches. Or maybe there's this part of you that still loves spending time with your grandchild or your daughter or whomever. And so to remember that, oh, I can be present with the challenge, but can I also remember to bring attention into what fuels and fills me, what nourishes me, as a way of supporting me through this, not bypassing this, but to provide a support, and to really see, oh, that there's more to your life than just illness. And this is not to dismiss the illness or the conditions that you're living with. It's not to dismiss the real challenges, but to say, oh, the sunset was beautiful tonight. So to remember, oh yes, what else is there? And to just practice asking that question. And that question is easier to ask the more we continue to bring the attention into the present moment. So maybe just for a moment, I'll invite you all to bring to mind something that is delightful. And it could be something as simple as, I had a really delicious dinner tonight. Or it could be something like, I saw someone I loved yesterday. Or it could be something as simple as, my pain level is less today than it was yesterday. And that's meaningful. Or maybe from a window nearby, maybe you're in your home and you're near a window and you look out. I'm actually looking out and I see this beautiful fern, just this beautiful lush fern. I live surrounded by a forest right now. So to just notice what else is there. It might even just be seeing a beautiful color across the room. To be willing to notice this, to take an interest in what else is there, and just see what happens for you when you notice that. And then maybe from here, we begin to bring the attention back into maybe that in-breath and the out-breath. And we're going to be coming to the end of this in just a moment, so you can continue to connect with what is beautiful or brings joy to you. Or if you want to, again, just feel the sensation of breathing in and breathing out as a way of bringing the attention back into the present moment. Or maybe you begin to feel a sensation in your body, maybe a neutral or pleasant sensation. And just getting to know, what does it actually feel like? So bringing the attention into your direct experience. And so with that, maybe just taking one more moment to just notice one more moment of your direct experience. And then with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Naomi. And I just want to say thank you to each of you who are here tonight. And my hope is that this has been useful, and I will gladly respond to any questions when the time is available for that. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Naomi.
Thank you so much, Nichole. That was really such a lovely overview of mindfulness. And I loved how you incorporated all those experientials. I was just looking at my sleeping cat with her twitching whiskers. That was bringing me joy. So I know we're going to have more time with you for the questions, and also during the after the show experiential. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. And now it's my absolute honor to bring on two wonderful survivors to offer us a more personal perspective of their journey through brain cancer using mindfulness. Shotz and Lloyd Nattkemper are both survivors of glioblastoma multiforme, or GBM, and have been active members and volunteers in our Neuro-Oncology Survivors Peer Support Program, offering support and guidance to others living with cancer. And they also have, outside of UCSF, their own practices of supporting those with cancer. They really are thrivers in our books. And I imagine that some of their ability to thrive, even with a diagnosis such as glioblastoma, has to do with the mindful way that they approach their everyday life. So Kat and Lloyd, if you could come on, turn your videos on. I want to thank you so much for being here and for your willingness to share your lives with all of us. Thank you for being here. So to start off, I'd love to just hear from you both. Kat, maybe we'll start with you first. If you could tell us a little bit about your life leading up to your diagnosis and treatment.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. So before I was diagnosed, I thought I was a pretty healthy person. I've been a yoga teacher for about the last 7 years and a marriage family therapist also. And I have several kids. And so I just had a very busy, full life. And I had a meditation practice already. And I just remember back to like before a yoga class, I was sitting there and I had the same thing coming up for me in meditation. And what it was is that I wanted to know myself on a deeper level. And that's what I kept asking for in this meditation, right? And, sometimes we don't know what we're asking for all the time. And so just being, anyway, that's what I ended up getting. I feel like I know myself so much deeper now. I used to meditate almost every day, and I, did meditation classes. But there's still this part of me that I didn't quite trust myself. And I think going through this cancer diagnosis, I've really brought meditation back into my life so much more. There's a period of time, right, when I was diagnosed that it was hard to sit still because everything was flooding in. And but now I feel like I know myself so much more, and I'm so much kinder to myself, to all those voices in my head. I try not to speak meanly to myself, and I have compassion for myself, and I really try to listen to my body. So a lot of the things that she talked about in this mindful meditation really struck home for me about just finding more kindness in myself and just supporting myself. Whenever I have something stressful happening, like we all do, it's helped me kind of ground myself in it so that I don't get swept away in the stress of it.
Thank you so much. And Lloyd, I'm going to turn to you now and ask you the same question. Could you tell us a little bit about your life leading up to your diagnosis? Anything you want to share with us?
Sure. So I'll just start out saying that UCSF is near and dear to me. I'm a 1983 graduate of UCSF School of Dentistry. I went from there to do two different residencies in Los Angeles at a VA hospital affiliated with UCLA, and I practiced as a periodontist for about 36 years. And in the course of all that, I also have been a bodybuilder for 45, almost 50 years now, competitive for a few years. I've also taught at one of the dental schools in San Francisco, and then for the last 27 years at a local dental hygiene program. I love teaching. Big part of, and teaching has been a big part of my practice as well, just instructing my patients to care for themselves. Um, anyway, and I think much like Kat shared, a lot of my identity, I think, has been around caring for others, using skills that I've learned and characteristics of my own personality in providing empathy and caring and healing to others. And particularly in my practice, taking people from a place where they were frightened, they didn't know what to expect, to where they got through treatment. It was positive, it was safe, it was comfortable, and they not only felt better about themselves, but took better care of themselves. So anyway, so and I'll say this, along the way, I have, I think learned, whether I was aware of it or not, a lot of different mindfulness practices. For instance, when I was in my residency, I trained at a professional bodybuilding gym alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger and many other professional bodybuilders. And when I was training with some of these people, men and women, they often told me the importance of being totally present in the moment. And sometimes that meant focusing on whatever body part, maybe your quadricep, your bicep, or whatever whatever you're working on, putting your mind into that, because it was amazing when we did that, there were results. And also putting your mind toward having a positive outcome to our training always paid off. Whereas there were individuals in the gym, many people I've known, where they go through the motions, they don't have any goal, they don't think they can really change at all, they can't really evolve, and they don't. And then through the course of my cancer, and also I've done other things too along the way to help improve my mind and improve my sense of mindfulness. Wonderful men's program called Breakthrough for Men here on the Monterey Peninsula that's been awesome. And I just want to share, one of the individuals who contributed a lot of ideas and concepts to Breakthrough is a fellow named David Ryko. I suspect that Nichole is familiar with him. He founded the concepts of the 5 A's, which include attention, affection, appreciation, allowing. I think there's a couple of others that I can never remember all of them, and acceptance. And acceptance for me, I think through the course of finding out that I had a problem with my brain, has been huge. And in fact, the morning that I was advised that I had a brain tumor, I don't remember feeling upset or angry, but rather I accepted that. And then I wanted to know, well, what's next? What's the next step? And for me, I think part of my mindfulness practice has been piecing things. In other words, or I think some people call it chunking, where I take things a step at a time, because sometimes I have felt completely overwhelmed. And when overwhelmed, it's almost impossible to really do anything or think logically. And so, as Nichole was suggesting, say if I'm having pain, I in fact put my mind there. And I think, okay, well, what am I experiencing? What are the portions of this? And I just, Naomi, I practice what you did, and you showed us about breathing in to the count of 4, holding it, and then letting out slowly, so like a 4, 7, 8 kind of thing. I do that over and over. Sometimes I have to do it for several minutes, depending on what's, either if it's painful or anxiety, a lot of anxiety or whatever it is I'm feeling. That's tremendously helpful. Anyway, and the other thing I wanted to say, this is a little bit disjointed, but the other thing I wanted to share is that being diagnosed with a brain tumor certainly was upsetting and unexpected, but it has brought just an enormity of gifts. I feel as though I have grown so much. I have learned to appreciate and be grateful for literally everything and everyone in my life. And as Nichole was suggesting, simply looking outside, appreciating trees and birds and the sky and air, whatever it might be, I don't take anything for granted. I appreciate everything. And through this recent episode I had where I injured my knee, I've met lots of people at our local hospital and local convalescent facility, people I never would have met otherwise. And oh my gosh, what amazing people they were. And I'm so grateful that I had such awesome care. So I feel like, there's a lot of wonderful things that come from yucky things. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. You really kind of exude that gratitude, and it's just really, it feels, for those of us who have the pleasure to know you, it's really lovely to be around that and kind of contagious. So thank you for sharing that. And you did talk a little bit about like how the diagnosis has affected your practice in terms of the chunking. And do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, if I may. So when I had my diagnosis, So I had a very busy practice, and I literally had no choice but to rethink everything. I went back. I was in my office a week after my surgery, trying to do surgical procedures on patients, and it became immediately clear, because my tumor was located in my visual cortex. I couldn't see well enough to do a surgical procedure. I had no business doing that. And fortunately, I've had some return of vision, but even so, my visual acuity is still not normal. So I was forced to give up my practice, to find a buyer. That was quite a process doing that. And then following the sale of my practice, I had to redefine who I am and what my purpose is. There was a period of a few months where I literally felt like a ship without a rudder, going around in circles and kind of starting to spiral down. I was not seriously depressed, but it was hard for me to get through each day. And I didn't know what to do. And so I very purposely decided, you know what, I need to find things that I can do, hopefully, which will be of benefit to others, because that's how I define myself, as doing good things for others. And so I sit on 3 different dental boards, so I still am doing that. But I also became a member of my church board. I'm now the chairman of the board. I'm very involved in my men's group. I'm involved in 4 different musical groups. I'm doing a lot of musical recording on my own, which I share with individuals in a cancer support group here in Monterey. They all love what I do, or at least they tell me they do. Maybe they're patient with me, but it gives me a sense that I'm doing something that's positive and fun and benefits others. And the really fine young man who bought my practice is always coming over or having me come into the office because he wants to pick my brain and ask my judgment about things, which I feel so honored to do. So it helps me feel a sense of continuity, that I'm not completely cut off from who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I see you using your mind very kind of proactively to kind of really recreate your new normal in a very positive way.
Yes, and I'm blabbing too long here. I apologize, but one more thing, is that reading music. So I've been learning all kinds of new pieces to play, but doing that has, I am certain, helped improve my vision. I still have a visual deficit, but I've become almost unaware of it because I'm constantly scanning. I kind of have learned to make up for it through active, essentially, eye exercise every day. And I think it's really good for my brain to be doing that too, where it's a complete exercise for my brain.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kat. If you could let us know a little bit how your diagnosis affected your mindfulness meditation practice.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was, right after I was diagnosed, it was very hard to sit still because so much stuff came pouring in my mind, and so much fear and uncertainty. And it took me a while to be able to sit quietly. And I just tried to be, the mindfulness part, I think, is so important because it allowed me to sit quietly, but not just with all the emotions, to sit quietly and look at like a rose blooming and the beauty in that, and maybe smelling it. And so I'm always looking for these little moments of mindfulness. If I go for a walk and there's, I can see the sun coming down through the trees, and that's really beautiful. And I just take a moment and appreciate that. And so all those are kind of new things for me, where maybe I did it once in a while. Now it's a big part of my day, every day, this because I feel like every day is a healing day when, you know, you go through glioblastoma or brain cancer. It's hard to know what to expect in the future. And so I just try to really be present, and that takes away a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the fear of what will happen. And so now I'm coming up on 3 years, which is really great. And my youngest son just started high school. And so that was like, when I was first diagnosed, it was almost 3 years ago. And I just remember thinking, I'm not going to see him get through middle school. I just was, the doctors told me that there's 6 months to 14 months. And so that was just really sad for me. I thought, gosh, I really want to see him grow up and see his life and what he does, and as well as my other kids. But just yesterday was his first day of school. And so I got to bring him to his first day of high school. So that was like such a wonderful time to just sit there, and as I drop him off, watch him go forward into his classroom. It's like, yeah, I'm still here, and that feels really great. And I think a lot of the mindfulness really helped me let go of like critical thinking, if I'm being negative towards myself, or if I get down, or, it really helped me kind of lift myself up a little bit. I didn't feel so depressed when I would be more mindful. It really helped me be present and move forward, and, begin to really love myself and take care of myself by, eating really healthy foods and finding all kinds of alternative treatments. And so, everything changed. And so mindfulness changed along with me. And now I just feel like it's such a beautiful thing. I actually have this baby hawk that's been learning to fly, and it just comes right over our backyard. So I can sit in the backyard and I just hear them practicing every day and practicing flying, because it is a new thing for them. And so, that relates to me in so many ways. I want to keep practicing living a full life. And so as I watch them practice, it kind of relates to me, where I think, okay, they do it all day long and they're flying around, maybe I need to do more than just one exercise or something. So, so it's interesting that this mindfulness can begin to teach us things too.
Yeah, I love that. And what I know about you is you draw so much mindfulness from nature too. I bring that in a lot to our discussions. And I just love that, your presence with nature. And I also love that you're using mindfulness to notice how you're talking to yourself and changing that into more compassion. So
right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just one more question, I think we're for you, and then I'll ask Lloyd this as well. For those that are listening who are, have a cancer diagnosis or going through something else that's really challenging or difficult, what words of advice would you offer them?
I think for me, the idea of gratitude is really a grounding practice to have in your life. And ever since I was diagnosed, every night before I go to sleep, I bring like one hand to my heart, one hand to my belly, and I just go through the whole day and everything that I'm grateful for in that day, trying to remember every little aspect. And in the morning, I wake up and I see the sun out there. And again, I just touch my body and just feel myself here in this world. And I think about what I want for the day. How do I want to bring joy in my life? How do I want to be happy today? How do I want to connect with others? And so I've seen that for myself, that gratitude has really helped. And I just went to see my daughter. She's in San Diego going to college, and she just was so overwhelmed. Every time I saw her, we were helping her move. She was crying and just so emotional. And so I thought, okay, I kind of wanted her to be on her own for a while and fly. And then I'm like seeing this. So I'm like, okay, I have to help her now. And so I started this gratitude exercise with her for a month that we're doing. So every day we text each other 3 things we're grateful for. And it's really, and then I'm adding a few more things to that too. But it's really changed just in like a week and a half. She seems so much happier. And just, I think when we notice all the good things in our lives, we can, more good things come to us. And if we dwell on the bad things, then we kind of get stuck in that pattern. So I think that would be my.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate it. And Lloyd, I'm going to turn over to you the same question. What advice might you offer to those kind of dealing with a challenging circumstance such as brain cancer?
Yeah, well, listen to what Kat said first thing. That was wonderful, Kat. I'll just share a couple of things. One of them, and this has, I think, been a theme throughout the entire webinar here, is to realize how that there is a gift in simply being in the present, not spending your time worried or regretting or being sad about the past or being worried about what might happen in the future. Being grounded in the present is such, it can be a tremendous source of peace. The other piece of it that Kat alluded to is visualizing what you want. And it might be what you want when you wake up each morning, how you want your day to go, what is the most wonderful day you can imagine? Or given the limitations you might have, what would you love to have happen today? And that might involve, you know what, calling someone who you haven't talked to in a long time, who you love. Or it might be making some eggs just the way you like, or whatever it might be, some little thing. But doing all that with a great gratefulness and appreciation. You know, I have to honor what Kat said. She said it so beautifully. I think it's very important. And I'll just share that I'm going to sound like a geek here, but one of my childhood heroes when I was a little boy is a guy named Eddie Rickenbacker, and I don't know if any of you would know who he is, but he was America's leading ace in World War I. And Eddie, before he went into the Army Air Service, was a race car driver, and before that he did a lot of odd jobs. But Eddie he was known as being fearless, but one of his mantras was that you cannot be courageous if you're not afraid. And the idea is that we all have a choice, and we all have things that come up in life that are scary. And certainly cancer is a big, scary thing. And it's a choice to continue living in fear, or it's a choice to be courageous and to be accepting and to move through that experience, as positively and as hopefully and as courageously as possible. That's what I try to do every single day. It's not easy. It takes effort, but it works.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you both so much. I just want to soak it all in. And Alexa, if you could bring up the slide for resources, I want to let you know, for those of you listening, if you're wanting more of Kat and Lloyd, they are volunteers in our peer support program. So if you're needing some extra support, if you're a brain cancer survivor, Kat and Lloyd have kindly agreed to offer some one-on-one support. But I want to show you, those of you watching who want to start a mindfulness practice of your own and don't really know where to start, here's some ideas. The Osher Center for Integrative Medicine has MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction classes. Nichole herself teaches one of those classes. And Nichole also has a number of offerings from her own practice as well. A Monday morning meditation, as well as a Sister Well Circle for women. And Kat, the lovely Kat Shotz, has weekly meditations as well for anyone living with cancer on Friday mornings from 10:30 to 11:30 Pacific time. So her phone number is there if you're interested. So thank you so much, Kat. Thank you, Nichole. Thank you, Lloyd. I'm going to go back and listen to the recording of this myself, because I feel like there were so many pearls of wisdom here, and just soaking it all in. So Those of you who are wanting to stay on and do an experiential with Nichole and will have a chance to actually discuss it, we invite you to do so. We will let you know how to do that. But for those of you leaving us now, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you again at a future webinar. Thank you.